It's Thursday and Super League reaches round number 25 with in-depth analysis, passionate debate and round 25 predictions. It's time for the Captain's Run. It is indeed time for the Captain's Run, and yes, don't adjust your sets. I am on my own flying solo this afternoon, of course. Yes, few people indisposed, can't be with us today. Reggie's in Crete, Joel has got other engagements that he's got to be with, and the members must be very busy indeed. But don't you worry about that, because this is still going to be very entertaining as we build up to round number 25 of the Betfred Super League, starting, of course, tonight at the Brick Community Stadium between Hull KR and, of course, the Wigan Warriors. Let's take a look at the tables and as we find them, of course, and here we go. And a massive game, you feel, at the bottom of the table there. Bradford against Toulouse. Toulouse in great form. It's looking more and more likely, isn't it, that Bradford could end up with the wooden spoon, albeit there's a bit of good news with a few returning faces this week. The Giants, who, of course, were on a 4-game winning streak before that defeat to Warrington at the weekend, albeit very good indeed, especially in the latter stages against Warrington. They will be hosting the Lee Leopards. Wakefield Trinity, they're hosting York, as you can see there, York in 12. FC will host the Wire. The Catalan Dragons, they go to the Casford Tigers, of course, will be doing their celebrations for their centenary. That's happening on Friday night, I believe. Toulouse, we've already covered that one, of course. And then we go to the top of the table. St Helens against the Leeds Rhinos at the Brewdog Stadium. That is going to be a belter, isn't it? Of course, Hull KR taking on Wigan this evening. So that's how it all looks at this moment in time. It's still all to play for. We still don't know who is going to be finishing in that top position. It looks as though it's going to be a shootout next week between the Rhinos and the Warriors. The Rhinos have got to come past Saints first. We would expect the Warriors to dispatch Hull KR very easily later on this evening. The Wolves are in third and are looking more and more likely to retain that position. Another win for them will secure that at the MKM Stadium. They will not be giving up any hope of finishing in second place, but that is looking highly unlikely. And then from 4th, 5th and 6th, that could finish in any order whatsoever. So it's going to be very interesting indeed as the season unfolds. Right, let's get cracking. And we're going to start, as we always do, in reverse order, and it's going to be Toulouse Olympic, of course, taking on the Bradford Bulls. That is going to be a big game on Saturday to finish off the round. There you go. You can see the two squads on the screen at this moment in time, and there's no doubt about it. This is going to be an interesting encounter. At the start of the season, many expected Toulouse Olympic would be at the bottom of the pile. That, of course, has been to the Bradford Bulls, and the fact that they've only been able to announce a 19-man squad tells you at this moment in time that they are doing it tough indeed. As you can see, no Zach Fulton. He's out with a neck injury. Dan Russell failed a HIA. Logan Lewis is suspended, and Ethan Ryan and Joe Keys all drop out from last week's squad for the Bradford Bulls. Got to win. Well, he could return, having been named in this team. Harvey Duckworth from the Pathway and Riley Gelder are included in the senior squad for the very first time. Not sure if they will be getting a debut, but nonetheless, they are there. Duckworth is described as a versatile back who can play across any of the back 5 positions, who has impressed Jonathan Schofield's reserves throughout 2026. Gelder has predominantly played as a middle for the Elite Academy, who won the Scholarship Coaches Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year last year. So there's no doubt they come into this game in with lots to look forward to in the future at the Bradford Bulls. Right, let's take a look at how we see it. The bookmakers, well, they've gone with Toulouse 1-10. They're giving them the advantage for this one. Bradford at 6-1. Of course, Toulouse last week, very good indeed in victory at Craven Park. Who can forget that? And of course, some of their key players that day are still on show for this one. As for the Bulls, they're 5 losses in a row, but they did beat Toulouse 18 points to 6 all the way back in round 6 when they didn't have the injury problems that they have now. It was a good win for them against Toulouse Olympic. The ones to watch for this game, well, we'll start with the Toulouse side. And as you can see there, Benjamin Laguerre. Well, there's no doubt for me, he is one to watch in this. He was very good indeed last week at Craven Park. Just signed a brand new contract that will keep him at Olympic till 2027. 29, and we expect him to build on what was a very impressive personal display at the Robins last week. At 7-1 for first try scorer, that could be a very good bet. Maybe it's written in the stars, a week that, of course, has seen Benjamin sign that extended deal. He has got a very good try to game ratio as Ben, and we expect him to light up Super League for many a season still to come. As for the Bradford Bulls, well, of course, Ryan Sutton, he has missed, he missed last week, and they do miss Ryan Sutton when he's not there. I think at the start of the season, many people were considering, was this going to be a good pickup for the Bradford Bulls, Ryan Sutton? But for me, I think he's been very steady away throughout the season. He has managed to be on the field 18 times in the 24 rounds that we've already had. He's picked up a couple of tries as well. He's been very, very good indeed. 775 tackles he's got this season. He's always also good for an offload as well. But there's no doubt Bradford look a little bit stronger down the middle when Ryan Sutton plays. He will be back potentially for this game on Saturday, and I think he will be one to watch without any doubt whatsoever. Toulouse are undefeated at home in their last 6 against the Bradford Bulls, having won 5 and drawn 1 as well in that period. The Bulls' last away win was a 26-24 championship win back in 2019. So that's how long ago it was until Bradford had any joy whatsoever in Toulouse. So there you go. That's the game. I would expect Toulouse to win this. I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to say Toulouse by a minimum of 18 points. I think they're in the zone, and I think that they can come through this one and continue to look upwards in Super League. It could be another bad weekend for the travelling Bulls. Let's now go across to the DIY Kitchen Stadium as well, let's be fair, a team that has been doing so well throughout the season, Wakefield Trinity, all of a sudden Wakefield on a really bad run of form, but they will be delighted to see that man right there, Mason Lino, back in the 21-man squad. Does that mean that Jack Sinfield will miss out this week? We'll have to wait and see, but Lino back in time for the run-in is very timely indeed for Dowell Powell's men. Wakefield, well, you know, they've got a great record over York. It's been a long time since York won at Trinity. That was all the way back in 1984, would you believe, the last time that York got a win there at the Trin. Powell's, well, he's welcomed back Tom Johnstone as well as Lino, Jazz Tavanga, Jay Pitts as well. He's there in the lineup. You'll see that. And Isaiah Agana, not many people expected him to be in the squad. That has become as a little bit of a surprise for everybody. Everybody expects him out to be for a lot longer than this. Will he play? Well, who knows? By all accounts, he has got a chance of playing. We'll have to wait and see on that. But of course, in other news, of course, Oliver Pratt, Matty Staunton and Trey Lolesio, well, they picked up injuries in last week's game, and that will prevent them from getting on the field in this one. There's just one change for the York Knights, and that's Paul Vaughan, and that for me is a critical one. He's returned from a failed HIA. Justin Sangare, he's dropped out, and of course pictured there Tommy Doyle, who of course joined York from Wakefield. Could he have a say in this game this week? We will have to wait and see, but there's no doubt about it. York are an 80-minute side, and they will test Wakefield. Wakefield will need to really play well in this one to overcome York, as many teams before them has found out this season. In terms of the bookies, well, they have Wakefield 1-14 favourites going into this game, 7-1 for the York Knights. As you can see there, those 3 defeats in a row. They are still 4th Wakefield, but they need to turn the tide around. They need to start getting some sort of form in time for the playoffs. As for, of course, York Knights, they are 3 defeats in a row, are the York Knights. And of course, when these two met at York early in the season, it was a really good showing from the Knights, 26-14. They lost to Wakefield, but at that point in time, Wakefield, of course, were in real cruise control. So there's no doubt where York have got the personnel to trouble the Trinity, but for me personally, I would be very surprised if it wasn't a home win. As you can see there on the screen, the 2 to watch that are put in for this one are Jazz Tavanga and Paul Vaughan. As for Tavanga, and of course, Jay Pitts was also included in the 21-man squad for Dowell Powell. These two, for me, it's so critical that they are back because they're going to release Mike McMeekin from that loose forward role. Don't get me wrong, Mike is a willing player. He went in there, he stood in there. But what this will allow Mike McMeekin to do is go back into the front row and play to his strengths. Tavanga and Pitt, maybe a combination of both, will both be brought back at the same time. Who knows? But certainly one of those, Tavanga and Pitt, will more than likely play at loose forward, releasing McMeekin back into the front line and just bringing a better balance and structure to the Trinity pack. And there's no doubt Tavanga brings that little bit of grunt as well and energy when he's on the field of play. So these could be timely returns indeed for Darryl Powell. As for Paul Vaughan, well, there's no doubt about it. Paul Vaughan this season has been exceptional for York. They are going to really have to rely on him to try and get over the likes of Fartilli, Hamlin-Welly, and of course, McMeekin. So there's no doubt a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Paul Vaughan, but he's used to that. He will not mind that, and he's back for the York Knights this weekend. If Jay Pitts does get on the field, he will be getting his 450th career appearance. That is some going, and many, many congratulations to Jay Pitts with regards to that. So there you go. Wakefield Trinity against York Knights this Saturday. I'm going Trin. I'm going Trin by 16. I'm going to go Trin by 16. I do think York will be competitive, certainly for the first hour, but I think in the end, Trinity will be too good and will get away from the Knights. Also on Saturday, of course, sees Warrington Wolves go to the MKM Stadium. This one should be a good game as well. Warrington in great form, of course. 3 wins from 3 in that 10-day period for Warrington. And this, of course, the 4th game in 2 weeks. So it's going to be a real test for the Warrington Wolves, no doubt about that. I mean, who can forget? Well, probably everybody can forget the absolute ball fest that was round 13, Warrington 12, Hull FC 4 at the Halliwell Jones Stadium. All the neutrals, I'm sure, will be wanting for a much better spectacle than that was served up on that day. It was completely and utterly deflating. Trust me, I was there. It wasn't great. Anyway, here are the two 21-man squads, starting with Hull FC. And Connor Bailey could return from his clavicle injury that has left him sidelined for several months. He replaces Ben Johnson in the squad, but they are still without so many key personnel. Will Price, of course, who was interviewed this week, maybe, just maybe, Will Price will be going back into the halves under Steve McNamara next year. Zach Hardacre is a massive loss as always. Zach has been such a talisman for Hull FC over the last few years. He still isn't there. Neither too is John Asiata. Cade Cust is still out with a shoulder injury. Yusuf Aydin, he's out with his knee. Brad Fash, MCL. We won't be seeing any more of Brad, of course, this season. Callum Kemp, he's out with his shoulder. Will Kirby has an ACL, and Joe Ward also has an ACL. All of those players unavailable. For the sharp-eyed amongst you, though, you will see that Warrington Wolves are buoyed by 2 returning faces, Josh Fewlis and Joe Philbin. Joe Philbin, for me, is going to be very important to Warrington over the course of the playoffs with the absence of Toff Sippler, who is now, of course, going to be missing the rest of the season. And you'll also notice there, no Kai Taylor-Ray. A lot of what is happening with Kai Taylor-Ray. Didn't get in last week, of course. Lachlan Webster got in before him. You would expect that if Fewlis is fit, Fewlis plays, but Lockie Webster is still there. Don't be surprised if Lockie Webster is the man who gets on the field. And what a story that would be. Lockie Webster and Logan Moy, who for me has been exceptional all season for Hull FC. And it looks as though he could miss out next year with the acquisitions that are coming in. Will Price letting slip in an interview this week that he has had discussions with Steve McNamara, and McNamara prefers Bailey Hodgson at fullback with Price in the halves. And of course, rumour has it this week that Jake Arthur may be going to Huddersfield Giants, which adds further weight to Will Price in 2027, wearing the number 6 shirt, and the incoming Bailey Hodgson being maybe preferred at number 1. Where does that leave Logan Moore? You've got to feel, haven't you, for Logan Moore. His performances this season for FC, I believe, possibly put him in the conversation for their personal player of the year. I think he has been simply brilliant as Logan Moore this season. He's played 20 games for them. He scored 4 tries, made 4 assists as well. A very willing carrier out of backfield. Just under 8 meters a carry he does. Very good. 67 tackle busts this season. 4 clean breaks as well. He's made over 2,600 meters for FC. Like I say, real blow for Logan Moore. Maybe he'll show his quality yet again against the Wire this coming Saturday, and maybe get Steve McNamara, who will, of course, be watching, to maybe think again. Logan Moore, one to watch without question. But the 2 ones to watch, well, we'll come to them in a moment's time. Before we do that, of course, it's 11th against 3rd. Warrington now on a 5-game winning streak. As for Hull FC, of course, they'll be a lot happier having dispatched the Catalans Dragons last week in a thrilling game, it has to be said, in Perpignan. As I've already mentioned, the round 13 game, one to forget, 12-4 to the Warrington Wolves. No surprises, Warrington coming to this as favourites, 4-11, 2-1 are Hull FC. But the two players that I've highlighted there as ones to watch, starting with Harvey Barron, who, again, for me, has outshone Lewis Martin. Lewis Martin this season has really struggled, hasn't he, for FC, not really backed up on what was an incredible season last year where he finished top try scorer. As for Harvey Barron, well, he's been going well. He's got 11 tries now for the season. Scored that hat-trick against Saints. Got a try against the Tigers. It was Barron, funny enough, against Dragons last week. But he is one to watch because he has scored a try in the last 3 meetings with the Warrington Wolves. And that is why I have put him there today as a one to watch on Saturday. Barron, can he go 4 in a row against the Wire? And then, of course, George Williams. It's hard not to highlight George Williams, of course, who has now come back from injury and has played the last 3 games for the Wire. There's no doubt about it. George has picked up where he left off. He's really running, time and time again at defensive lines, really testing the defensive line for the Warrington Wolves this year. He scored 5 tries. He's made 13 assists in 10 appearances. I mean, that is some going, isn't it, folks? 10 appearances for the Wire this year, 5 tries, 13 assists, but it's also his work in and around other tries that also has caught the eye as well. There's no doubt about it. There was a lot of people saying, should George Williams be in the England squad? Should he be going Mikey Lewis? It should be Connor and Lewis. Well, all of a sudden, that narrative has completely changed. And George Williams now, as the captain of England, has to be on this form as shooing for the 6 at the World Cup, and that will have surprised a lot of people. Hello to everybody in the chat. Kev Langman, good to see you there with us. Billy Ingram's with us as well. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Get your comments in the chat. I'll try and give you shout outs as I go through today's captain's run. For me, this could be the game that catches Warrington out, but I just can't see it. I really can't. If Herman SA plays for FC, he'll be doing his 200th career appearance. Geordie Crowley's 150th in Super League. And I think Warrington get this done. And they probably get it done probably by at least 2 scores. I'm going to go Warrington by 12, but it should be an entertaining game. Expect a lot of expansion from both teams, and I'm certain we're going to be delivered tries aplenty. It should be an absolute cracking game at the MKM Stadium this Saturday. Really looking forward to this one. Right, now we go for what could be the game of the round. It really, really could. This could be an absolute belter, folks. It really could. And it is the game between Huddersfield Giants and the Leigh Leopards. I don't know why I'm doing that. There you go. Outstanding game, this. It really should be a belting game. 2 teams that are coming into this with a lot of confidence. Leigh last week against, and people will say it was against Bradford, but any team that scores over 60 points in Super League in a single match, that needs to be respected, and we respect that here at Super League Round, no doubt about it. They will go to Huddersfield in real good spirits. As for the Huddersfield Giants, they were defeated by Warrington Wolves, and it looked at one point 28-10 like it was going to be a convincing defeat, but then back came Huddersfield, which showed so much spirit and desire. Very, very impressed indeed by the Huddersfield Giants in the flesh last week. In terms of players that are missing, well, we'll start with a visiting team. Of course, still no Tessinu, no Frankie Holton, no Bailey Hodgson. They're the main ones that are missing. But apart from that, they look in fine fettle. There's a lot of doubts over maybe David Armstrong doesn't play this week. Davey may be not a part of the 17 when these two take the field. But that said, it's hard not to be impressed with the Leigh Leopards. Their key players this season have really stood up. Josh Charnley, well, of course, he's rolling back the years. Yamila Hanley with every passing game, and of course now called up to the England World Cup squad, and no real doubt about it for me. He's a real contender for one of those centre spots if he carries on between now and the end of the season in the form that he's in. Adam Cook, hasn't he grown at the Leopards this year? An exceptional performance last week. A real quality knock from Adam Cook. He was unplayable. 10 from 10 with the boot. Again, a lot of criticism early in the season in terms of his ability to not kick. Well, he put that to bed last week. Some superb goal kicking from all over the field. Leigh, a lot of those tries came in the corner. Not a problem for Cook. He slotted them over. His try was something of absolute genius. If that was Bevan French, it'd still be being shown today. It was a beautiful, beautiful try and spoke of a man playing with absolute supreme confidence at this moment in time. And of course, partnering him is Lockie Lamb, who himself made 2 and scored 2 last week in that game for the Lee Leopards against the Bulls. So there's no doubt about it. They've got a half-back combination that at this moment in time are purring. They're as good as anything in Super League. You accompany that with a middle unit of Joe Offer and Gary, Robbie Mulhern back in the loop. You've got Owen Trout there, Isaac Lee, who's been outstanding and will be going to FC next year. You really have got a handful to contend with. But there's no doubt for me at all that Huddersfield Giants will supply a very stern test. They've got Lee this week. They have KR next week. And I believe the Giants will potentially win one of them games. They could lose both, but I just think that they could win one of these 2 games. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think nobody, and I mean nobody, can take the current Huddersfield Giants for granted. They are playing some great rugby league. I saw Cole Gale last week in the flesh against Warrington, and I've done a couple of posts with regards to him. He was superb. When he came on, everybody's talked about Zach Wolford, and Zach Wolford is a great player, a quality player, and he himself ran the ball hard against the wire last week. But when Geyer came on, the whole emphasis of the game changed. He ran 8 times from dummy half. Not once did Wolford run from dummy half last week, but Geyer did. And when he did, he really tested the Warrington defence. For me personally, he looked as dangerous as Litton and Walker in that particular performance. He was absolutely superb. A lot of talk that he's going to Bradford next year. And if that's the case, they are picking up a diamond of a player. He really does look the part. Also muscled up in D, but it weren't just his 8 runs from dummy half. He had 7 tackle busts in that game, ran the ball 11 times for 121 metres. He was absolutely superb. And in the same way that Edwin Ipape probably comes off the bench in this one, they do tend to go William Horn now as the starter at the Leopards. So too may Cole Geyer. And if he does, the Leopards need to be aware, especially tired middle units, because this lad, he will test them time and time again. Then, of course, there's the form of Harry Rushton, who yet again against Warrington had a solid game. 47 tackles in D. He only missed 4 and also ran over 100 metres, 117 for 13 carries. Rushton is in great form. And when you can then throw into the mix Sam Halsall, who has come back from injury and has scored a brace in the last 3 games for the Huddersfield Giants. They have got a winger there that knows his way to his line at this moment in time. And that, for me, is going to be a fascinating battle between Halsall and Charnley on that edge when these 2 meet this week. Now, why do I think that, they should be very respectfully of this team? Well, I want to talk about the Jim Lenihan effect, and I think it's important that we do that. Starting here, I mean, this is the form guide for the last 5 games, and Huddersfield Giants are 5th. I'm going to say that again. Huddersfield Giants, in terms of a form guide, are ranked 5th in Super League, which is incredible. Wigan Warriors are top. Of course, they're on an unprecedented run, 5 wins, but of course, their winning stretch goes a long way back further than that. But joint first over the last 5 games is the Warrington Wolves. Then in 3rd spot, Lee Leopards. Why? Because they're on a 3-game winning streak going into this round. Then it's the Leeds Rhinos because they won last week. We put them in 4th. And then the Huddersfield Giants, who were also 4th in the last 5, but lost last week. But like I say, taking all of that into account, Huddersfield Giants at this moment in time, they are the 5th best form team in Super League. Now, people will say, yeah, but look at who they've been playing. And I get that and I accept that. But I think the manner in which they lost at Warrington does mean that they are very capable, very capable indeed of upsetting either the Leopards or KR next week. We've seen what they've done in patches this year. We saw what they did to the Wigan Warriors at the Brick Community Stadium. Of course, Adam Clune is back, and it won't surprise anybody that Adam Clune is the one to watch. Him and Adam Cook in this game, for me, are the one to watch. No doubt about that whatsoever. When the Lee Leopards went to the Aku Stadium back in round 9, it was a 30 points to 16 win for the Leopards. I'm sorry, it wasn't at the Aku, it was at the LSV, wasn't it? I'm not so sure that it's going to be as easy as that. I really don't. I think the Lee Leopards here have got a real battle on their hands. Apologies for that. I think I'm pretty confident that the Huddersfield are at home for this one. Got that one a little bit muddled up, but I'm sure you'll forgive me for that. But yeah, 30 points to 16 was the win for the Leopards at home. I think that margin could be tighter, even though the Leopards are in great form. Going back to Jim Lenihan just for a moment and the job he's done at the Huddersfield Giants, and I think it's right and appropriate that we pay tribute to what he's done there this year. Of course, games 1 to 19. I appreciate that Jim Lenihan was there for some of those games. I think he came along in round 12. But from games 1 to 19 versus the last 5, yes, of course, they've gone off the bottom of the table. They had 4 wins in the first 19 games, and of course, they've had 4 wins in the last 5. But look at the difference in the scoring power. They were averaging 13.8 points a game in those opening 19 rounds. They're now at 27.6. The attack has got better. More on that in a moment. But more importantly, their defense is getting better as well, week by week. 35 against in those opening 19 rounds compared to 20.4 in the last 5. But when we go back to their attack, there's no real, rugby league's a very simple game, and the best way of defending is actually staying on the front foot. It's defense that tires out teams. And Huddersfield, in the start of this season, were doing a lot of defending, hence some of the score lines that they were getting against themselves. But in the last 5 games, the tide has turned. Huddersfield are doing a lot better. And I think a bit of that is, again, going back to Gaya. Their runs from dummy half, on average per game, are 3 higher than at the start of the season. They're averaging an extra 5 tackle busts now. They're averaging an extra 2 clean breaks. And look at the meters. The meters in the last 5 are up 168 versus that 1 to 19 games. And look at the tries. They scored 53 tries in the opening 19 rounds. They've scored 23 in the last 5. That is to be hailed. And sometimes coaches don't get the time. They just don't get the time. And, let's be fair, Jim Lenihan, when he came in, it was torrid. They were losing, and they were losing badly. But, he's just carried on. He's been getting them fitter, clearly doing a lot of work on the training pitch. And look at those statistics and what he's achieved. Absolutely superb. You can only be impressed with what Jim Lenihan has done at the Huddersfield Giants. That said, I find it very, very hard to go against the Leopards. I do think the Leopards will win this, but I think it could be a really tight game. And I'm going the Lee Leopards by as little as 8. That's what I'm going for this one. I think the Lee Leopards have got a really tough game on their hands against the Huddersfield Giants this week. There's a lot of players that are going to be making some history there. Gareth O'Brien will be making his 350th if he plays, should David Armstrong not play. 150 career appearance of Tane Milne if he backs up from the Warrington game. And his senior will be making his 150th Super League. And Yamila Hanley, his 100th career appearance for the Leopards this weekend. Now, if you're watching Super League Raw Weekly this week, you will know that the Super League Raw Grand Final competition is now live. That's right, the Grand Final competition is now live, and you could be joining Super League Raw at the Grand Final for as little as £2. That's right, 2 tickets to join Super League Raw in the South Stand, facing the trophy lift at this year's Grand Final on Saturday, the 3rd of October. For as little as £2, you could be the lucky winner. You can also get 5 entries for £5. The QR code is on the screen. If you're listening on the podcast, just visit superleagueraw.com and go to the shop to enter. This is a great competition. Somebody's going to have to win it, and we have got not 1 but 2 pairs of tickets to give away. So even greater chance of you joining Super League Raw at this year's Grand Final. Good luck to all entrants. And of course, if you're a member, you are automatically included. We now go to the big game at the Castleford Tigers, and of course, they will be doing a lot of celebrating in their centenary. I think it's 150 years, I think, for the Castleford Tigers. Or is it? Yeah, it will be 150. Big game this for the Castleford Tigers against the Catalans Dragons. You never know what version of Catalans you get. We say that every single week, don't we? And it'll be exactly the same here. But yeah, the Castleford Tigers taking on the travelling Catalans Dragons, and both teams, well, certainly Castleford, they come into this with a lot of injuries. I mean, not a single 1 to 4 in their team sheet. So that will probably mean for me that Senior and Mellor will continue to be in their centre spots. We know PLT, he will be at full back, and likely it is Keenan Brand will go out onto the wing instead of Senior. So again, lots of real injury concerns there for the Castleford Tigers, but they are fortunate in the fact that they're taking on Catalans, because let's be fair, they really have been very poor indeed, and most of these players now, a lot of them, will be off next season. And for those, of course, who are looking at the Tigers squad, of course, still they'll be a lot better next year with Blake Tappert. Of course, he's still out. No Valame, yet again, so disappointing that we haven't seen more of him this year. McIntosh still not there. Westham and Rooney, Gary, my Papa Lange isn't there as well. Hill, Beckett, and Goulding. So some real big names there. And people say big names, and there'll be other fans that laugh when I say that. But the Castleford Tigers, these players are vitally important. Of course, the Gary, my Papa Lange partnership has been so potent this year, and for that to not be on the field is a real blow on such a special night for the Castleford Tigers. As for the Dragons, well, no Makinson, and he had an absolute belting game when these two met in Perpignan earlier in the season. No Fartapi as well. He's not there. Maria's not there because he's banned. Neverett, Wilson. No Cruz Leeming. What a blow that is. Leeming, arguably Catalan Dragons' best player last week without question. Leeming was simply superb. A try, an assist last week, 7 runs from dummy half. He was very, very good indeed. He is not there for the Catalan Dragons for this one. That is a massive blow indeed for John Cartwright as he takes his team to the One Ball Stadium. So how do the bookies see this? Well, the bookies see evens for the Castleford Tigers. Of course, they've won 1 in the last 4 games. 8-11 on the travelling Catalans Dragons. That's an interesting one. 8-11 on, 4 defeats in a row. Seems pretty generous to me, I have to say. Of course, Catalan's 34-28 win over Castleford at the Stade Gilbert Brutus earlier in the season. Let's hope it's as entertaining, a tri-fest no less. And the ones to watch in this are the 2 players that are pictured, Tyler Dupree and Lewis Dodd. Why Tyler Dupree? Well, everybody's going to be watching Tyler Dupree. Let's be crystal on that after the shenanigans that went on last week. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he behaves himself. And there'll be a lot of pressure on Dupree, a lot of pressure on him to really muscle up in this one, but in the right way. So I'm going to be very interested to see what version of Tyler Dupree walks onto the pitch. A lot of good fun on social media today with Dupree and the coaching staff at Castleford Tigers trying to laugh off last week's altercation on the touchline. But there's no doubt for me, he will be one to watch, and I'm sure a lot of focus will be on him. And Lewis Dodd. Why Lewis Dodd? Because when these two played at the Stade Brutus earlier in the season, it was Dodd who had 4 try assists in that game. He had an absolute stormer, one of his better games of the season, it has to be said. So Lewis Dodd, can he do it again against the Castleford Tigers? It's a big question indeed. Which way am I going to go? Well, do you know what? I am going to back the Tigers because I've no faith at all in a travelling Catalans team. But not just that, I think there will be raw emotion in this Castleford display. They know how important this is for the club and for the fans. And I would absolutely hope that they can deliver a win on what is a very special night indeed for the club. If they didn't, that would be a real shame, a real shame. So for me, the emotion, we've seen this many times before. I remember, when Lee went and played Leeds and the Brodie Croft pictures when it meant so much because of Rob Burrow. And I sort of see the same type of thing here. I think it means that much to the club, to the fans. I think the players will be running that a little bit harder in this one. And for that reason, and maybe because Catalans have already put the cue in the rack for the season, I'm going to back the Castleford Tigers by a score. Could be wrong on that. That could be one of the worst predictions of the season. But hey, there you go. There you go. Right, let's get into this one. And this one is, of course, St Helens taking on the Leeds Rhinos. Now, look, this is not a good fixture if you're a Leeds Rhinos fan. It really isn't. I think that they would have wanted a much easier game 3 games out from the end of the season. Of course, they've looked like they've been the League Leaders' Shield winners for a long period of this season, but all of a sudden, that has been coming more and more under scrutiny. And they're going up against Saints. Saints have won their last 4 home games against the Leeds Rhinos. That is why this is not good news if you're a Rhinos fan. The Saints have got a very good record. Forget the wide to right try last year. Long before that, the Saints have had a real proud and quality history when it comes to playing the Leeds Rhinos. Let's take a look at their squad, starting with the Rhinos. And you can see there, Jack Bird returns to the squad. And in his pre-match press conference, Arthur did say he will play. So expect Jack Bird to be on the field at the Brewdog this weekend. He replaces Oscar Brown. Danny Levi as well is also included for the first time since that neck injury at Castleford, and that is wonderful to see. It really is fantastic to see him in. Jeremiah Matausi drops out for him, but great to see Danny Levi back. Hopefully he's fit and well. Will he play? Maybe not, but it's great to see that he's in and around it and could return very, very shortly, if not this week. Jared O'Connor, well, he'll make his 150th appearance for Leeds, on Friday night. His debut came all the way back in 2020. But the Rhinos are still without James McDonald, who was in great form, wasn't he, prior to getting that injury, his pectoral injury. He was looking like a dream teamer all day long. Mekasivo, of course, still out. Keenan Palacia still out. So some big absentees there for the Leeds Rhinos. 2 changes for the Saints squad, and you can see there, of course, Jackson Hastings, he's out. His career probably now finished at the Saints, and he's replaced by youngster Oscar Knox. He steps in for selection. And another fantastic news story. Johnny Lomax returns to the Saints team for the first time since he suffered his injury against Warrington back in June. Lomax yesterday coming out and announcing his retirement. And from everybody associated with Super League Raw, we want to take this moment to thank Johnny for what has been an incredible career. A 5-time Super League champion, a winner of course, the World Club Championship and a Challenge Cup winner. He has been an exceptional professional for the Saints. Something tells me he's going to be around the new coaching squad there at Saints for next year. You just can't afford to lose people with that amount of experience and quality from your coaching staff. We expect Johnny will be retained by Saints, but like I say, what a stellar career he's had. And could that be a big solver of a problem, of course, for the Saints? Jackson Hastings going out. Does that mean that Lomax comes straight back in? If he's not fully fit, if he's going to come back in further down the line, we expect him to play again for Saints before the end of the season and to get the farewell that he deserves on the field, and I'm sure after the game at the Brewdog Stadium. If he isn't fit enough for this one, then perhaps it's going to be a very interesting halfback combination. A lot of rumours that it could be a Wellesby and Robertson halfback combination for this one, with Saylor retaining his position at the back. And of course, the likes of Percival in the squad, the likes of Nelly McDonald in the squad, so they can cover those central positions. That in itself is going to be interesting. So it's going to be David Clemmer's back as well. Mustn't forget to mention David Clemmer. David Clemmer's back as well for Saints. But do you know what? There's a part of me here that doesn't think that he will play. I don't know if he's going to be fully fit. If he is, fair play to him. But there is a little bit of a rumour that perhaps he's not fully recovered yet from those broken ribs, 3 of them no less. He suffered, of course, at the Hill Dickinson Stadium in that brutal game against Wigan Warriors at Magic. But he is listed. He could play. It'll be very interesting to see if he does play or not. So David Clemmer also in the squad. But I think, the Leeds team, probably a little more easier to suggest what their lineup is going to be. As for the Saints, well, there's a couple of moving pieces there. We'll have to wait and see on the evening. But this, for me, is going to be a real test for Leeds. They cannot afford to lose this game. They want to win the League Leaders' Shield. They want to go to that shootout next week against the Wigan Warriors. We want them to get to that shootout against the Wigan Warriors. So no disrespect, Saints fans, but I think a lot of neutrals will want Leeds to win this, so we get a blockbuster of a game next week when Wigan go up against Leeds. That should be an absolute stormer. But that said, they're going to have to earn the right to beat Saints, who have won the last 2 games. 9-4, the Saints for this. 1-3, the Leeds Rhinos. They are the favourites, and rightly so. They are top of Super League, no less. When they met each other earlier in the season at Headingley, it was a 24-16 win to the Rhinos. And, there's no doubt who, for me, the players to watch are. Harry Robertson, for me, he has been in sparkling form since going to stand-off for the Saints. He's had 4 assists in the last 2 games for them. He has been very good indeed. That, for me, again, through circumstance, he's always fancied himself in that position. And I think through circumstance, he's found himself there, and he's playing that well that surely Kevin Walters is very impressed with what he's seen. Perhaps that is his position going forward. But he's going to come up against arguably one of the form standoffs in the competition, and that is Brodie Croft. He's now just 2 tries behind Mika Sivo with 3 games left. Who'd have thought that Brodie Croft could be the main contender to knock Mika Sivo off his perch as top try scorer 2026? And if he was to achieve that, would he get Dream Team? That will be very interesting as well to see. I mean, of course, Croft off to Warrington next year. And what a way to bow out. He has been in exceptional form for the Leeds Rhinos. So, Nelly McDonald, if he plays, he could, if he gets a try, it's going to be his 100th in his career. Jared O'Connor, we've already mentioned, his 150th for Leeds. And Matt Lodge, who's only just come over, of course, and he's expected to feature for the Leeds Rhinos, because scored on his debut. He will be on his 150th career appearance. Now, look, I've said it once and I'll say it again. No disrespect to our Saints followers. Please take no disrespect from what I'm about to say. But we want a Leeds Rhinos win here. And the reason we want a Leeds Rhinos win is because we want to have a barnstorming game next week. And for that reason, I'm going to go Leeds by 10. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. It's going to be a very, very competitive game of rugby league. A lot of concern over Jake Connor. That was battered away by Arthur in his pre-match. This is going to be a fascinating game. This, for me, again, like the Huddersfield League game, one that you just have to tune into this week. Enjoy it, folks. Should be a belter, but I am going Leeds by 10. We then come to the game this evening, and we have been absolutely, well, we've been, it's steal, folks. It's an absolute steal. We have not had the games that we should have had between these two two great sides this year. You know, when these two met earlier in the season, it was Wigan who put on the field a very depleted squad. This time, it's Hull KR that has done exactly the same. And, you know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of talk out there saying that, well, you know, they're a tired team. It's okay. It's not as bad as what Wigan did. I'll be honest with you. I think there's a case here to say it's equally as bad. The argument at the time when Wigan rested all of those players for the Challenge Cup final that they went on to win was that the players weren't injured, that they were available to play. Now, of course, we know KR, like Wigan, are not going to get into any trouble for this, and they will, of course, bat it away. But like I say, for me personally, we have really had it tough as neutrals where this game's been concerned this season. We should have had two great contests in Super League between these two. The mad thing about this is, though, where other teams are concerned, and I'm just going to say this off the bat, is that there's people saying, well, you know, from a Warrington perspective, this is a disgrace because it's going to give Wigan the advantage over Warrington in terms of, you know, the points difference side of it. I would go as far as to say it's probably levelling it up because let's not forget, you know, KR battered Wigan in that game where they rested. So from a points difference perspective, it's probably just going to level it up anyway. Had both teams been at full strength at Craven Park earlier in the season, it wouldn't have. It's hard to think that the scoreline wouldn't have been within 15, maybe 16 points either way. So all this is going to do is even that out. I don't think any other, the likes of Warrington, can really complain. I think it's just evening it out a little bit. But yeah, like I say, what a spectacle it could have been, should have been, but we're not going to get that. All of a sudden, I think the biggest spectacle on tonight's game is going to be the tribute to the late, great Sir Billy Boston. And I, for one, looking forward to seeing what Wigan Warriors do to make sure that they put a fitting tribute to the great man. And I'm sure there's not going to be a dry eye in the house this evening. But let's try and take a few positives from this. In the same way that when Wigan went to Craven Park, and let's be fair, many Super League fans would have been introduced to the likes of Shea O'Connor, to Kerr, to McDermott, and the list goes on. Of course, we could put in George Loughlin, etc. You know, a lot of the youngsters that day have gone on throughout the season and produced some real good quality performances to the point where a lot of people around Super League have been very impressed with those players. Perhaps this is a night where the same can be said for some of the understudies at Hull KR. I hope so. I really do. I hope that some of these younger players do get that opportunity tonight. I mean, in the same way that Wigan, when they put their 21-man squad up, when they took on KR at Craven Park, ended up not playing any of their first teams. I think on that night there was the likes of Ensember in the squad, etc., and they never played. You know, do we expect more Gildart, Sue, Amon, Broadbent, Luckley, Martin, Lawton? Do we expect all of them to play this evening? I don't think we do. So I think there's a real opportunity here for some of the youngsters to play this game. I really do. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go live on the telly. And I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to watching that. I mean, unsurprisingly, look at this. I mean, have you ever seen anything like it? 500, 1 to 500, Wigan on. 1 to 500. That's ridiculous, isn't it? And that basically tells you everything you need to know. Nobody thinks this is a contest this evening. Hull KR 33-1. Wigan are on exceptional form. We know that. They haven't lost a game since that game at Craven Park. As for Hull KR, of course, they're coming into this in unpeculiar. Well, they're not 14. My apologies for that. They're certainly not 14. I don't know what happened there. KR fans are getting a bit giddy. We're not 14. No, you're not 14. Again, apologies. That's obviously a mishap there. Silly me. Need to be a bit careful when I do these slides. They are, of course, sixth going into this game. But, of course, we're on the back of 2 losses in a row, and that's a big problem for Hull KR. They've not been in that position that much. And let's be fair, last week, it was a really, I mean, against Warrington, they could probably stomach that, but Toulouse really did a number on them, didn't they? Like we say, 62-4 it was back in round 12. Maybe that scoreline could be reversed this evening. But the ones to watch, starting with Liam Marshall. Why Liam? Because he needs just one try to get to the magic 200 for his career, and perhaps tonight that will happen. And Liam will know he has got young Noah Hodgkinson breathing down his neck. Will he have as many opportunities next year to really start moving that needle even further? I think Noah Hodgkinson next year is going to be a real problem for Liam Marshall. He's going to have to be his very, very best. I think for the first time in his career, there's genuine competition for Liam Marshall on that left edge. He will need to get a wriggle on. But like I say, if he scores this evening, it'll be his 200th career. And there'll be a lot of people who don't know the young man that is pictured on the right-hand side. If you've listened to Super League Roar Weekly over the years, you will have every now and again heard the name Flynn Holden. Warrington were trying to keep hold of Flynn, but eventually Hull KR have prized him away to Craven Park. This young man was a part of the academy winning side of the Warrington Wolves last season. He played 8 times in the academy and scored 12 tries. He was their top try scorer despite not playing the full season due to injury. This lad knows where the try line is. If Morg is put in the halves, there's an opportunity here potentially that Flynn Holden could be fullback this evening. He's got an incredible yard of pace. He really is. Once he's gone, he's gone. And I, for one, hope that we see Flynn Holden tonight. This is a boy that I believe has got a big, big future in Super League. So you Hull KR fans that are travelling, how many will travel? That's a big question, isn't it? But Hull KR fans who are travelling, those who are watching at home, mark my words, Flynn Holden, one to look at. If you've not been made aware of him, if you've not seen him yet in your reserve grade, then tonight could be the first time that you see him. And if he does get that start, I really do believe he will show you a glimpse of what the future could hold at number 1 for Hull KR. He's well worth looking at. As far as the score is concerned, though, this is going to be an absolute calamity. I think it could be 62-4 the other way around. I do think it's going to be north of half a century for the Wigan Warriors this evening. I can't see it going any other way. That is how I see it. Do you agree with me? I don't know. Get yourselves in the chat. Let us know. But there you go. A slightly different captain's run today, of course, because I'm on my own. But hopefully that has given you a great insight into the games that are coming up this weekend. It should be a good round of Super League. The game at Huddersfield and certainly the game at the Brewdog Stadium should live up to expectation. I think those two are the pick of the round, and I'm really looking forward to watching both of those games. As always, the final Hooter Mob, they'll be back Monday morning for your little trip into work, the podcast, of course, and the Tackle Talkers, the ladies' Tackle Talk, they'll be there on Tuesday. And of course, we will be back this coming Tuesday night at 8 p.m. live for Super League Raw Weekly. We hope you can join us for that. But from me to you, enjoy round number 25. Bye for now.